Nerd Cave. I'm your host, Finn. This is Wednesdays with Finn. I'm just gonna sit myself right back down, okay? Shout out to my dude, Daisha Perkins, or my lady dude, my lady. Her Imperial Awesomeness, Daisha Perkins. Daisha had asked to cover a people group that is kind of like out of the way, you know, people that we don't normally think about that often as Americans, so I was like, Well, in school I wasn't really taught that much about, you know, Southeast Asia. Let's look there. Why not? What do you mean there's a massive globe-spanning empire down there? Where was I? Somebody failed me. Look me in the eye and say it with me because it took me like 10,000 years to figure out how to pronounce this. Majapahit. 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 The Majapahit Empire. Full disclosure, I'm gonna butcher these names, and I'm sorry, I have no idea where to even begin with this pronunciation. So the kingdom was founded on the island of Java in Indonesia by this guy named Vijaya, okay? He was on the run from this other king who like took over that palace in a coup. It was a whole thing. In order to get his palace back, Vijaya allied with the Mongols. Yes, those Mongols. Everything's going great. Vijaya's got his palace back. The Mongols are like, yeah, good job, buddy. And then once he gets back in power, the first thing Vijaya does is kick the Mongols out of Java. It's cool though, the Mongol Empire was already kind of like failing anyway. It didn't come back to bite them. Like, it literally just didn't. So, you know, there you go. By the end of this empire's reign, they controlled a landmass that is the equivalent of London to Istanbul. Okay, it was a huge area of land to rule. But on top of that, they had a spice empire. You see, at this point in history, it was really, really difficult to preserve meat for long periods of time because this was before refrigeration. Any spices that could preserve meat for longer than their normal expiration date were worth more than gold. As it happens, quite a few of those spices are native to Indonesia. In the early 1300s, the Majapahit kings were able to put a stranglehold on global spice trade. You know, at least until their empire fell 100 years later, but you know, you win some, you lose some. On to the Bible! Today's topic: incest. Don't hate me, Nairi. I remember reading the book of Ruth and seeing that Ruth was from this place called Moab, and I was like, Moab, why does that name sound familiar? So I flip over to Genesis chapter 19 and I'm like, oh yeah. For those of you who have repressed this particular memory, Moab was originally the son of Lot and his eldest daughter. It's honestly a super sad story. So what happened was Lot and his family were like physically dragged away from the city of Sodom, but unfortunately that did not include his sons-in-law. His sons-in-law did not believe Lot when he warned of impending judgment, and so they decided to stay in the city, which means that once the city was, you know, nuked out of existence by God, Lot's daughters were completely without husbands and without children. I honestly feel a lot of sympathy for them. My sympathy does, however, run dry when I see that their solution to this issue was to get their father drunk and rape him. Clearly, being raised next to Sodom had an effect. It is interesting, though, to see the narrative of God's mercy towards Lot being played out in his Moabite descendants. The word Moab means from my father, okay? The book of Exodus, it was the Moabite women who led the people of Israel into sin. The offspring of the Moabites can't even enter the assembly of God. Like, they can't even enter the temple. And yet, think about it, Ruth, the great-grandmother of King David, was from Moab. When King David was on the run from Saul, he sent his father and mother to take refuge amongst the Moabites under their king. The thing that makes the difference for Moab is honestly the same thing that makes the difference for us. It was not the fact that the Moabites were of a different ethnicity to the Israelites that made the difference between the two. It was the difference of faith. For those who chose to embrace God and embrace the faith and embrace the people of Israel, we have good memories. We have good stories. We have stories of redemption and of rescue for them. The cool thing about having people like Ruth in the line of Jesus and the line of King David is the fact that it doesn't matter where you come from. It does not matter what your family background is. What matters is your personal choice to embrace faith and to embrace God. That is the lasting story of Moab. The story of Moab, in the end, is kind of a story of redemption because they're us. They're Gentiles who teeter on the edge of faith, and yet some never quite make it through, but those who do make history. Just as God showed mercy to Lot, so he shows mercy to us. What do you think of this analysis? I could be right, I could be wrong. This is mostly me just like reading the passage and executing it for myself. So, tell me your thoughts. Also, what should I cover next? Guys, give me requests. I love doing these. This is just so much fun for me. In the meantime, have a great day, make wise choices, and happy Wednesday.